ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जना शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदामह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपादकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितां तां सजीवां साद्वैतं सवधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पदा सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। यन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमं प्रसुप्तं सञ्जीवयात किल शक्तिधरः स्वधाम्ना अन्यंश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणात्वागादीन् प्रणं नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं। स्वस्यास्तु विश्वस्य कलाः प्रसीदतं दयन्तु भूतानि शिवं मिथो धिया मनश्च भद्रं भजता तदोषज अवेश्यतं नो मतिराद्यः इति कीः। आराध्य भगवन् व्रजेशतनयस्तद्धाम वृन्दावनं रम्या कचिदुपासन व्राजवादवर्गेण य कल्पितम्। श्रीमद्भागवतं प्रमाणममलं प्रेम पुमार्थमहं श्रीचैतन्यमहाप्रभोर्मतमिदं तत्राधरो न परः। विश्वस्य नाथरूपसो भक्तिवात्मा प्रदर्शनात् भक्तिचक्रेवर्तितत्वात् चक्रवार्धक्यये भवेत्। हृद्वाप्रेण भक्तिशस्य वितते सञ्जीवनी स्वागमा राम्बे कामतपर्दुदाहदमयि विश्वापगोलासिनी दूरान्ये मरुषाकिनोऽपि सरसि भावाय भूयात् प्रभु। श्रीचैतन्य Kripanirakusamaha Madhurya Kadambini Sri Chaitanya Kripanirakusamaha Madhurya Kadambini Bhakti Purva Shritatam Tu Rasam Pasyetyada Tadhi Tam Nomi Satatam Rupa Nama Priya Janam Hare. So, Hare Krishna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur classified all the anarthas which are there, the unwanted programs which keep us attached to this body and to this material existence, into 4 categories according to their origin. All of these anarthas have the same function. They bind us, keep us in the bondage of our body, and therefore facilitate continuing our material existence. Senseless, with repeated births and deaths and sufferings, but still we are attached to it. And out of the 4 kinds of anarthas, the most dangerous and the most persistent programs or anarthas are anarthas which are created by offense, aparad. Why they are most dangerous, most persistent, deepest one? Because this tendency for offense is coming directly from the soul. Tendency to enjoy or tendency to avoid enjoyment is coming from the mind. But the offensive mentality is ultimately rooted in the soul. And therefore, whatever we do, impelled by these tendencies, create very lasting effects on our consciousness. And we briefly mentioned this effect, and the effect is twofold. When we commit aparada, the first effect of aparada is that the heart of those who are object of our aparada becomes closed toward us. They just want to keep as far away as possible from us, and therefore we do not experience the effects of the holy name. We do not feel the taste in studying or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. We do not really feel the reciprocation of the holy Dham. We do not feel these exalted feelings which are supposed to come because holy Dham, one of the 5 powerful forms of devotional service, can immediately bring us one to the level of bhava. So we don't feel all these effects because of our offense, because all these powerful personalities, the holy name, scriptures, Vaishnavas, especially great Vaishnavas, and holy Dham, they are not in a hurry to give us mercy. And the second effect, which we also mentioned at the end of the lecture, is that our consciousness becomes more gross. it loses its ability to discriminate or to sense the subtle presence of the spiritual energy. Pure consciousness can reflect spiritual energy, and pure consciousness is very helpful for our spiritual progress. It's still material consciousness, but if it's pure, we can, through the medium of this pure consciousness, we can intuit the existence of God or presence of God. And we can also feel the power of the holy name and so many other beautiful gifts the pure consciousness or pure heart can give to us. So, but when our consciousness becomes gross and shrunken, that's the effect. As much as the offense makes the heart of the offended shrunken. In the similar way, the heart of the offender is also shrunken. The consciousness of offender also becomes very narrow and very meager. And because of this, our consciousness becomes gross. We can only perceive something grossly material. Anything more subtle is not perceivable for such gross consciousness. And another effect upon our consciousness is that it activates dormant material samskaras. For the time being, we could have been very peacefully perform devotional service, but all of a sudden so much disturbance is there in the mind, and we have to deduct that this disturbance is due to committed offense which activated dormant samskaras. And all of a sudden we feel something like lust or anger, which we didn't feel for a long time. So, and we quoted this verse from Padma Purana, which explains this manifestation of gross consciousness. You only see the gross forms, you see the form of the Lord, and you say it's just a stone or metal, and you look at the spiritual master guru, and you only feel the ordinary human being with all his faults, and mostly you see the faults and deficiencies. And you look at Vaishnava and you judge Vaishnava according to their origin, according to their jati, according to their caste or place of birth. And of course, you don't feel that there is an effect of Padatirtha or Charanamrita. And the most important, Shri Vishnu Namni Mantri Sakala Kalushu He Shabda Samanya Buddhir. Kalusha He Shabda Samanya Buddhir. You develop the intelligence. Again, this is all description of this certain type of gross intelligence which considers mantra or the holy name of Lord Vishnu, which is capable of remove all the dirt from our heart, as Shabda Samanya is an ordinary sound. So, and of course, Vishnu, who is Sarveshvara, Taditara Samadhira. No, he is equal to somebody else. There are so many gods are there. This is the description of the mentality of people who live in hell, or in other words, who live in the material world, because material world is hell. Dukhalayama Shashvatam. Who only can interact with the matter and cannot feel the presence of spirit. And Srila Jiva Goswami gives a beautiful description of it in Bhakti Sandarbha in more details. What happens with our consciousness when we commit offenses. There are 5, he lists 5 very important effects on our consciousness of the offense. When we commit offense, the first effect is crookedness. Basically, the pretension, the tendency to pretend. I still do my devotional service. I still externally worship Vaishnavas. I externally worship Krishna. I externally pay respect to Guru. But internally, I become spiteful. I become negligent or even envious sometimes. So this crookedness, that externally you continue with the same so-called service, but internally you feel haughtiness over Vaishnavas and spiritual master and so on and so forth. This is called crookedness. Another effect is faithlessness. I will describe it a little later. So faithlessness, absorption in objects that erode one's faith in the Lord, slackness in devotion, and pride arising from one's own devotional service. And then he writes, very important thing, if one is unable to give this up in spite of being engaged in bhakti, rooted in the association of great devotees, one should understand that all these are effects of offenses to the name in this life and symptoms of offenses committed in past lives as well. So, this certain kind of crookedness or hypocrisy, the atheistic tendencies, absorption in TV and mobile phones and social media, slackness in devotion and pride, they're natural to every human being. But when we start bhakti, and when this faith appears in our heart, when Shraddha comes to our heart, together with respect and so many other beautiful qualities, when bhakti sprouts, and we still cannot give up these things, these tendencies. Normally, in the normal circumstances, we should be able to give up all these tendencies and engage in bhakti. But if we cannot give it up, despite of our endeavors, despite of understanding that this is not good, it means that there is some offense somewhere hidden within our consciousness, and this offense produces these tendencies, reinforces or strengthens these tendencies. So that's a very important point to consider. So, and he says this could be offense in this life, or it could be offense from the previous life. But it's there, and the offense therefore becomes the cause of our faulty execution of devotional service. When we continue with devotional service, but devotional service doesn't bring the expected results because there is an obstacle, there is some power within us which deprives the process of devotional service their natural power. So that's what Srila Jiva Goswami explains, and we will go in little more details, but basically what we can see in this description is that as much sadhana bhakti brings us to the condition of love, helps us to develop love towards God. Offenses result in indifference and ultimately aversion to bhakti. So that's the opposite, because offenses are diametrically opposed to love. The result of the offenses is also diametrically opposed to bhakti. And we can easily find 5 corresponding qualities which are supposed to be present in our heart when we practice bhakti. Present and flourish in our heart. When we start practicing sadhana bhakti, natural tendency will become that we'll become very straightforward, honest. There's nothing to hide. I'm a good person, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and this straightforwardness is a very natural tendency of a sadhaka, if there is no offense. And then when we continue with sadhana bhakti, definitely our faith will become stronger. There's no doubt about it, because we will gain some spiritual experience, and this spiritual experience will make our shraddha stronger. Then gradually the taste that inspires us to be completely absorbed in devotional service will also become more and more pronounced. And then, of course, sadhana bhakti increases enthusiasm to perform devotional service, and ultimately sadhana bhakti makes one humble. Because no matter how great we are doing in sadhana bhakti, we understand that I'm just an insignificant worm which is trying to serve my glorious Lord, but who am I? So we can see that the 5 natural results of sadhana bhakti, gifts of sadhana bhakti upon our consciousness are coming when we perform sadhana bhakti properly. But if we don't do this, then these 5 opposite effects also will come. Kautilya basically means that we become more hypocritical. And it's not without a reason that usually people speak, normal people who are not practicing devotees, they usually speak about religious people as being hypocrites. Religions are famous of producing hypocrites. Why? Because of this reason. Because we become devotees in this line or that line, but because we're careless and we commit offenses, then this tendency to hypocrisy, to crookedness, kautilya, becomes stronger within our heart. And then, amazingly enough, the faithlessness also comes. We can, if we are honest and if we analyze our heart, we can see that sometimes it seems like in the beginning I was so faithful, and now I'm kind of losing my faith. Does Krishna exist or not? Not a fact. So ashraddha basically means that even if you encounter something which is miraculous, you still will explain it out by your rational consciousness that this is, no, it is just coincidence. Coincidence. Every time, basically, the miracles are happening in our life, practically every day. But the rational mind which is contaminated by aparada. We'll try to explain it out by some coincidence or whatever is there, or it's just my imagination or something like this. So that's again result of aparata. And then Bhagavat Nishta Chyavakas to Antar Abhinivesha. We become very much absorbed in things which Chyavakas, something which destroys our Bhagavan Nishta. So like the other day, Radha Pramod Prabhu asked, is it sinful to watch TV? It's not sinful, but it definitely destroys our Nishta in Bhagavan. It distracts our consciousness. It's not sinful, but we become absorbed in it. And this is what I've seen also. People come to Krishna consciousness, starts practicing it, and before they had some addictions, and they kind of give it up, sometimes easily give it up, but then after some time the addictions returned. They start playing games in computer or whatever is there, or some other addictions, start taking drugs again. So again, Srila Jiva Goswami says that's the result of offense. As I mentioned before, the offense activates dormant material samskaras. And therefore, this desire to get absorbed in something material and to feel illusory happiness from this absorption becomes very strong and impetuous. And then, as a result of it, the fourth influence upon our consciousness is that bhakti shaithilyam, our practice of bhakti becomes very slackened. Instead of chanting good rounds in the morning, we do it during the day, while driving a car, or while watching TV, or while browsing internet. You know, there's all kinds of very exotic varieties of japa. Facebook japa, TV japa, or driving japa. So people start practicing this, and this bhakti shaithilyam, because bhakti doesn't bring you satisfaction, required satisfaction. And the most amazing result is the fifth result, sva bhakti adi krita manitvam. You become very proud of your advancement in devotional service. I'm so advanced, it's just unbelievable. It's just too much advanced. So you become very, very proud. I achieved this and I achieved that, and I opened this Namahata or this Bhakti Vriksha, and I'm this leader and that leader, and at the same time you are empty in heart. You don't have really taste for bhakti, but because you need to compensate and you are in a society of devotees, you need to have some reasons to be proud, and then you start boasting of your devotional achievements. So, and this is what is unfortunately happening, and we should definitely give it up. But if it still persists, if it's still, all these tendencies are still there in our consciousness, then we should understand that there is some offense. It's very interesting that Srila Jiva Goswami says that these tendencies should not be there or can be easily given up if we practice the devotional service in the association of great devotees. It's a very important condition. When we practice without association with great devotees, then this quote-unquote natural tendencies can still be there, but in the association of great devotees, it's practically impossible to maintain such tendencies. You just come close to a great devotee and all your crookedness disappears. You don't feel like pretending because you naturally feel humble. You naturally feel that, there is no need to pretend. I am what I am, and, how can I pretend in front of such a great devotee? When we're associating with, let's say, normal devotees, then it may not be so easy to give this up. But Srila Jiva Goswami says, normally it should be easily given up if we are associating with great devotees. But if we cannot do this, even though we are in this Sangha, this Mahat, with great devotees, then something is seriously wrong with us. So that should be very important consideration, how offenses twist our consciousness, modify our consciousness and our perception of reality. So this electricity is definitely in the stage of anishtita bhajana kriya. It didn't reach the stage of nishta yet. There is another very important description of these effects given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary to the 21st verse of the 29th chapter of the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There, Kapila Dev says, Aham sarveshu bhutishu bhutatma avastitah sada tam avagyaya mam martyah kurute archa vidambanam. So, I, the soul of all beings, am always situated in all beings. He who disrespects me in all beings performs false worship of my deity form. So, in other words, if we forget that Krishna is situated in the heart of every living entity and become disrespectful, don't pay proper respect according to the position of these living entities, remembering that the Supreme Lord is there in every living entity, then our attempts to worship the Supreme Lord in form of archa becomes pretentious, hypocritical. We can only worship the Supreme Lord even in his form of archa properly if this consciousness or remembrance of the presence of the Supreme Lord in the heart of every living entity is firmly established. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes a beautiful commentary. He says, however, in such bhakti, offense create restriction. This is exactly what I said. When we commit offense, that offense influences our bhakti and it restricts our bhakti or constricts our bhakti. Our bhakti becomes powerless, not as powerful as it is described. Offenses generally, it's very interesting here how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains why do we have to worship and respect every living entity. He says, offense generally stems from disrespect to the great devotees. though such devotees are difficult to see, many exist. In order to avoid offenses to them, one should pay respects to all living entities, thinking that the Lord is present in all of them. In other words, just in case somebody could be a great devotee, we should pay respect to everyone. Sometimes we look at somebody and he looks dirty and, he's just a beggar, and you look down at him. Don't do it. He may be a great devotee. Jada Bharata, nobody could recognize Jada Bharata. And he was a great Mahabhagavata, and so everyone derided him. So he says this habit of being respectful is, the greater the devotee whom we offend, the more pernicious the effects of the offense will be. And therefore we have to be very careful. Sometimes in new bhakta, and we look at him in new bhakta, but you don't know how many hundreds of lifetimes he practiced bhakti. He's so enthusiastic, and he has come. He's not really new. You think he's new, and in reality, in the eyes of God, you are new. And he's not new. He's old. So he's senior. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, without doing so, even worshipping the deity forms of the Lord will not give any result. Since he is the Supreme Lord, Kapila then speaks in 6 verses somewhat angrily, out of affection. So with angry affection, Kapila Dev just pointing out at him, and he says, I don't approve this kind of worship of myself to benefit his devotee who does not respect all beings. In these verses, a very important point: disrespect, disregard, hatred, and criticism are forbidden. Basically, Kapila Dev, in these 4 verses, he speaks about 4 extents or 4 grades of offense. It can be avagya, it can be upeksha, it can be dvesha, or it can be ninda. These are the 4 grades of offense according to the gravity of the offense. Avagya basically means disrespect. Or avagya means like this haughtiness, or when we look down at somebody, or we kind of, he's avagya. Ava means we're looking down basically at somebody, because ava means down. Avagya means we think he's insignificant. So, and he says, basically we can deduce from these verses that there are 4 effects of these 4 grades of offense. If we are just disrespectful, or yes, it's Vyuddha Vikalpa. So if we're disrespectful to other devotees, then the result is pretension or crookedness, hypocrisy. And our offensive nature becomes more strong. Even if we slightly slightly look down at other devotees. The second grade of offense is upeksha. Upeksha basically means we don't want to see that this devotee is there. We are offending him by not noticing his existence. Have you been in a situation when somebody whom you know passes by you and doesn't even look at you, doesn't say Haribol or whatever? Do you feel offended? Yeah, you feel greatly offended. So upeksha, you know, you feel completely minimized in your dignity because, you know, somebody passed you as if you don't exist. Therefore, it's so important to say Hare Krishna, Haribol, or at least just, you know, bye-bye or something like this. whatever, to say something. Because if you don't notice, and sometimes it may not happen intentionally, consciously, but we have to understand that this is an offense. What to speak if we're doing it consciously? If we're just passing by and we don't care about other people. So he said, if this is upeksha, so if this second grade of offense is there, then as a result, God becomes indifferent to us. It's totally reciprocal. We don't notice the existence of one devotee, and God says, okay, I don't notice your existence. I pass by you, no problem, without saying Haribol. So that's more grave offense, and you know, we basically feel we're chanting the holy name, we're worshiping the Lord, but we don't feel any reciprocation from the Lord. We don't feel any reciprocation from our devotional service, and we should understand that's the result of our neglectful attitude toward other devotees, especially great devotees. So the third grade, or the third extent of offense, the third grade of gravity of offense is dvesha, active hatred. The hatred of malice is the basis of offense. It's there, but when it becomes visible, when we're not so offensive or critical, then we don't really manifest dvesha actively. But when dvesha becomes very visible, then the result of it is that we become internally very much disturbed, we feel anxiety, we lose peace, and we feel fear. This is basically also a result of an offense. We committed an offense, and because the offense is grave, Krishna is disturbed. And because Krishna is disturbed because of our offense, we also become disturbed. It's his reciprocation with our improper actions. You know, we created disturbance to others by our active hatred, and as a result, we lose peace completely. So this anxiety, fear, all these symptoms, you know, when we are practicing devotional service, we're naturally peaceful. I'm doing everything right. There's nothing to fear. Yes, death is there, but death is very natural. You know, it's just death means that Krishna is calling us to meet with him. He's awaiting for us in some kunjas of Vrindavan. But the grave offense is experienced as a complete agitation, anxiety. And then ninda basically means we start criticizing the Lord. No, we start criticizing devotees, we start distributing their faults everywhere. Like Siddharth Swami, the quote is there later. He says that what is ninda? Ninda is dosha kirtanam. You start glorifying their deficiencies and their vices and their faults, and you cannot stop because it's 24-hour kirtan. It's Akhanda dosha kirtan. You know, all the time. You cannot just stop. You're just talking and talking and talking. So the result of it is very active displeasure of the Lord. The Lord is totally displeased and totally withdraws His mercy upon us. So that's what we can conclude from this explanation of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, 4 grades of offenses. Okay, so now we're coming to the next section of Madhurya Kadambini, of the 3rd chapter of Madhurya Kadambini. Basically, what we read so far, in the very beginning of this 3rd chapter of Madhurya Kadambini, while describing the anarthas created by our offenses, he immediately mentioned that seva aparadas are not counted among offenses because they're easily nullified or neutralized. But then immediately he said, but it doesn't mean that we can or entitled to commit seva aparatas. Please never do this wrong conclusion, because this is a grave offense against the holy name and against all bhakti, basically. That's the offense against bhakti. But then immediately the impression which we get after reading this is that, oh my goodness, I should not commit seva aparadas. It basically means impossible, because there are so many different tiny details of how we should perform bhakti. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami or Sanatana Goswami, it's still contested, they wrote this Hari Bhakti Vilas. There are 20 vilasas in Hari Bhakti Vilas, and every vilasa runs from 300 to 400, sometimes more verses. So it's at least 6,000 verses, and each verse is a rule and regulation. And not to commit seva aparada, you have to know all 6,000 rules and follow them. You know, the Judaic tradition famous for having 606 something rules, and it's supposed to be enormously vast, and nobody actually follows this 600 plus rules. But welcome to Hare Krishna movement. 6,000 different rules and niyamas, and they're heavy. Like today I looked at Ram Navami. Ram Navami is coming, so the first verse about Ram Navami, a foolish person who does not observe full fast on Ram Navami will fall down into the hell known as Kumbhipaka. Hare Krishna. This is just one verse. So, Bhanu Swami already translated Hari Bhakti Vilas, so you can purchase it from today on. Srila Prabhupada, when he was speaking with his first hippie disciples, at one point he said, there are so many rules, if you knew, you would run away from here immediately if you knew about all of them. So then immediately this doubt comes into our mind. What does it mean not to commit seva aparat? Does it mean that now I have to follow the 6,000 rules? No, it's a good news is there. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says please listen, it's a very important logic behind this. Okay. He says, no. Don't be afraid of bhakti. It's basically like Upagupta Prabhu, he said that, other people, they're only faulty in creating anarthas by sinful activities, but devotees, they create all kinds of anarthas, all 4 kinds of anarthas. So sometimes this fear comes when we hear such descriptions. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, please don't worry. You came to the right place, don't worry. So he quotes the verse from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna himself speaks with Uddhava, and he says, my dear Uddhava, bhakti or Bhagavata Dharma has such a wonderful effect that once one begins practicing it, free from material desire, it can never be even slightly lost or destroyed. This is because it was established by me, who am beyond the material nature. He says, Maya vyavasitah samyam nirgunatvat anasishaha. I am Transcendental Lord, and I established this Bhagavad Dharma, and this Bhagavad Dharma nahi anu api dvamso. It cannot be lost. Even if you touched little bit this devotional service, it always will be with you. So, and then he says that simply by reciting this 10-syllable mantra of Gopal mantra, it will give you all perfections. So there are many statements which speak that actually you don't have to perform all the details of devotional service. It's not possible, and you don't have to perform all details. There is a difference between actively committing seva apparatus and some omission of certain rules. And that's exactly what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is trying to impress upon us. He says, if you don't perform certain angas of bhakti, it will never produce nama aparada. Committing sin on the strength of the holy name refers to the intentional commission of sin, thinking that the power of devotional service will nullify bad effects. Sin is action condemned in Dharma Shastra to be nullified by prayaschita. So, committing sins or consciously committing seva aparads is nama aparad. But if we neglect certain angas of bhakti, that's not a problem. Because bhakti is much more powerful than karma. In karma, you cannot neglect any tiny detail of karma. If you do sacrifice, fire sacrifice, you commit slight mistake in ingredients. The ingredient is not exactly pure, or slight mistake in pronunciation of mantra, or slight mistake. The result will not be there at best. At worst, it can be opposite result. You're performing, big sacrifice in a good faith, and as a result, the result is disastrous. You're finished because you performed it improperly. Bhakti is not like this. Bhakti is not that particular about this. Bhakti is much more generous process. So you can avoid certain things. And to prove this, please listen very carefully. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes 2 verses from 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 2nd chapter. Yevai Bhagavata Prokta. This path of Bhagavata Dharma or Bhakti is spoken by the Lord Himself. Only the Lord Himself can explain Bhakti. Upaya hyatma labdaye anjah pumsah avidusham vidhi bhagavatan hitan. So he says that even ignorant living entities, human beings, can very easily know the Supreme Lord if they are going along this path. The process recommended by the Lord is Bhagavata Dharma, devotional service. And the next verse, the most important verse, which is also often quoted by our acharyas. Yanastaya naro rajan. Now let's chant together. Yanastaya naro rajan na pramadyeta karvichit dhavan nimilyam netre na samena patetiha. So he says, oh my dear king, one who accepts this process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this person will never blunder on his path in this world. Even while running with eyes closed, he will never trip or fall. Naskalen napatediha. He will never, even, in other words, you can perform devotional service with your eyes closed and running at the same time. So what does it mean? It basically means there are two wrong interpretations of this verse. Some people say that what are eyes? What eyes signify? What does it mean closing the eyes? Knowledge. Knowledge. Eyes are knowledge. So when one wrong interpretation, when it is said that you can nimilya vanetre close your two eyes, means you don't need any knowledge on the path of bhakti. Have you heard this philosophy? Yes. Bhakti, it's gyan. We are bhaktas. We avoid gyan. Gyan is very bad. This is all. Bhakti means bhakti. I am a bhakta. I am not gyani. I should not study scriptures. No. Otherwise I will become dry gyani and end up in some Shankara mat or something like this. This is wrong, because it is said here that you are not blind, you close your eyes. It basically means that you have eyes. But you close eyes. You know, you have the knowledge. The knowledge is there, but you close your eyes. And another one here, you close your eyes and you run. And running basically means if you run, you can smash everything on your way or whatever. And some people say that bhakti, no, there is no consideration of knowledge and there is no consideration of any aparadha. I can do whatever I like. There is no real rules. It's all useless. No, this is not what it means. It verse is very important for us to understand because it gives us very clear conception or understanding how we should perform bhakti. Yes, we can run with two eyes closed and still reach the final destination, no doubt about it. But what does it mean? It basically means two eyes closed means that we may consciously neglect certain angas of bhakti because they are not so important. And therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami explains there are 5 main angas, which should not be, which should never be neglected. But there are secondary angas, like he mentions you should worship people tree. and you should worship Datri tree, and you should do so many other things. So if you, in your desire to achieve the ultimate goal, concentrate completely on the main angas of bhakti, like chanting, like studying Srimad Bhagavatam, like worshipping the deity, and being in the holy Dharma and associating with sadhus, then that means that you closed your two eyes. But closing two eyes means basically you're not seeing anything, but you're seeing your goal, and you're clearly seeing the direct means of achieving this goal. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So even if you don't fast completely on Ram Navami, of course I spoiled this because now you know that you're supposed to fast. But in any case, if your goal is to achieve Krishna Bhakti by vigorous performance of main principles of Bhakti, you may omit or not pay so much attention to some secondary details. And what does it mean that you run? Closing eyes means you know Shastra and you knowingly don't pay so much attention to details, all these 6,000 rules or whatever, but you pay a lot of attention to the main principles of Bhakti. What does it mean to run? Does it mean that running means that we can be very chaotic in our performance of Bhakti? We're just running. No, running basically means that we have very clear goal. And, we just run towards this goal. And while running towards this goal, we may, step over certain things. But because we're so eager, running here means if you are a real bhakta and you know how important it is to achieve the goal of bhakti, then you run. And you just run in this path. So, and you neglect certain angas. So, closing eyes does not mean violating or not following the rules of Shastra, because we have Shastriya Shraddha. Closing eyes doesn't mean that we break the principles of Shastra. But certain things we can kind of not pay too much attention to them. And that's why Srila Prabhupada never translated Hari Bhakti Vilas. Never even considered translating Hari Bhakti Vilas, because he knew that it would not be beneficial for us. It would just distract. Some people have this tendency to follow all the minute details, and while following all these minute details, they forget about the main things. So basically this verse says, yes, the path of bhakti is given by God himself. It's an easy path, it's a good path, but you should be, you should know, you should discriminate between the principles and details. So, so that's more or less the next section of Madhurya Kadambini. So yeah, this verse describes a person who has sincerely, this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, taken shelter of the process of bhakti as outlined by the Lord himself. And 32 seva paradas, beginning with entering the temple on palanquin or while wearing shoes, one should never be intentionally committed. Of course, it's not often that we're entering the temple in palanquin. But in our case, we should not drive into temple with our car. That's the modern version of this rule. So, and it basically means that under the pretext of following Raganuga, we should we should not neglect the rules which we know. We should know how to perform Achaman. We should put tilak. We should do all these things. But at the same time, we also have to pay a lot of attention to the main principles. So, and then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that maybe nama paradas were unconsciously committed either long ago or recently. This is important. Please listen. He says that among nama paradas, there are two kinds of nama paradas. And these two kinds of nama paradas, why do we have to know that there are two kinds of nama paradas? Because the effects of these nama paradas should be treated differently. One kind of nama parada is unconscious nama parada. We don't know what kind of aparada I committed, but we know that the presence of aparada from the effects. We can deduce the presence of nama parada by the effects visible within our heart. And this is one kind. The second kind is that we know what kind of nama parada we committed. So the method of neutralizing the effects of these two kinds of nama parada different. And we have to be very clear that there are different methodology. We should not apply universal methodology. The universal methodology is described in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Welcome to Hari Bhakti Vilasa. Again. So that's 11th Vilasa in two verses. Let's chant together. Jate nama paradhepi pramadena kathanchana sada sankirtayan nama tadeka sharano bhavet nama parada yuktanam namanyeva harantyagham avishranta prayuktani tanyekartha karanicha. So these two very important verses from Hari Bhakti Vilas, which describes the way of neutralizing unconsciously committed or unintentionally committed nama parada. It is very clearly says here pramadena. Pramadena just by the slip of consciousness, by inattentiveness. Without being conscious, you commit a parada. It happens with anyone. So what to do in this case? If someone commits nama parada due to carelessness, pramadena, kathanchana, somebody, then he should constantly chant the holy name, taking soul shelter of it. Sada sankirtayan namatad eka sharanau bhavet. This is my shelter. This is my protection. I know I committed some offense. I don't know what kind of offense. So I'm chanting the holy name to neutralize the effect of offense, to purify myself. And then it is said, Nama parada yuktanam namanyeva harandyaham. So the holy name destroys the offenses of persons committing nama parada. So the holy name himself can destroy namanyeva harandyaham. It takes away agam, the impressions or the results of nama parada. How, by which methodology? Avishranta prayuktani tanyevartha karanicha. So constantly chanting the holy name will give us perfection. That's why we have programs like Namanishta. We, for 1 day, for 2 days, or 3 days, we come together, we chant as much as possible. without mobile phones and any other distractions, trying to nullify apparatus. And it works. It has an amazing effect. It refreshes your consciousness and rejuvenates your practice of bhakti. So that's recommended to neutralize apparatus which are committed unintentionally. But if you commit an offense knowingly, Vishwan Chakravarti Thakur says it's very dangerous. If someone knowingly commit offense, then the effects are grave, and accordingly there are special procedures to nullify them. So for unknowing, unintentional apparatus, there is one universal procedure. But if you know what kind of offense you committed, then there are specific procedures to neutralize this specific offense. So, and basically, while stating this, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Pad, he goes to concrete offenses against the holy name, Nama Paradas. And the purpose of his description is not so much to describe the offense itself, but to describe the method how to neutralize this specific offense. So that's the next section, and he starts with the first offense, Vaishnava Ninda. And we know, let's chant together. Satam nindanam nah paramam aparadam vidanute yatah kyatim yatam katham usahate tat vigarham. So this exclamation, usahate, how the holy name will be able to tolerate sahate, such a offender who is criticizing Satam Vaishnavas. Here Satam means sadhu, somebody who is established in Sat, in reality. But because it's talking about bhakti, Satam here specifically means great bhakta. Because on every path, Satams are different. On the path of yoga, Satam are great yogis. On the path of karma, Satams are great rishis who established these rules. On the path of jnana, Satam are great meditators who meditate on impersonal Brahman. But here Satam means bhakta. Satam ninda namnah paramama paradam vitanute. This is the most grievous offense, paramama paradam vitanute. It constitutes the most grievous offense. Why? Yatah kyatim yatam katham usahate tatvigarham. How the holy name can tolerate this? Because somebody is serving the holy name and you offend him. He is a very close and intimate servant of the holy name, and you offend him. And as I said, Ninda means dosha kirtanam, according to Sridhara Swami. Ninda doesn't mean that you speak untruths. Sometimes people say that I'm speaking truth. So it's not ninda, it's not an offense. I'm speaking truth. It may not be an offense if you speak truth, but most probably it is an offense. Because you feel so much pleasure in speaking this truth. You don't find so much pleasure in speaking other kind of truths. Because you want consciously to pull down somebody by speaking this truth. Because you have malice within your heart. And because dosha kirtanam, because you want to spread this truth. You don't need to do it, but you still are completely obsessed by speaking this quote-unquote truth So therefore, Siddhartha Swami says, Nindanam dosha kirtanam. If you unnecessarily starts advertising the faults of other people, this is ninda. You may have some good reason if you want to warn somebody against associating with such person or this and that, and reluctantly you speak about somebody faults. That's okay, that's fine. But if driven by malice, you start propagating their faults, then it's ninda. It's offense, and the result of this offense will be very, very serious. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, what is the specific way to nullify this offense? He says, if by chance this offense occurs, the person should repent. Oh, I am such a low-class person, I have committed an offense to a saintly person. A person who has been burned by fire seeks relief in fire. This is a very famous statement. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur sometimes quotes this line from Ayurveda, that if you are burned, that the remedy from the burn, if you don't want blisters to appear in your hand or wherever, then you have to put it in, not in fire, but in some, like in chili or something. Recently, one devotee, she told me that, I heard this in your lecture, and I tried it. I burned my hand, and immediately I put it in a box of chili powder, and amazingly, there was no blister on nothing. So it works. So another example can be like when there is a forest fire, and a big forest fire. So to put down the forest fire from the other side, when there is this uncontrollable raging fire goes in one direction, then from other direction you can put some controlled fire, and this fire will basically burn everything. And then the fire will be extinguished because there is nothing to burn. So this is how they also fight with the forest fire, by putting counter fire against this fire. So here it is very clearly said that if you committed aparadh, and then to counteract the effect of this aparadh, should be by the fire of remorse. Remorse, even in Hindi, it's called paschatap, right? Yeah. Paschatap or anutap. So remorse means this fire within the heart, fire of remorse, fire of repentance. You become very much aggrieved. And it should be sincere. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, it's not that you pretend that I am. Sometimes people come and they try to beg forgiveness from somebody, and they're asking, "Oh, please forgive me. I'm such a rascal." And you look at them and you say, "Yes, you're such a rascal. Even now, you remain a rascal." Because you don't feel any remorse. It's completely false. It's not the genuine remorse. It's just a pretension of remorse. So therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, if you understand the grievous effect of Vaishnava aparadha, you should first really try to feel this. Why did I do this? And only after sincerely feeling the remorse, come to the sadhu and ask forgiveness. So he says that according to this logic that fire nullifies the fire, he should nullify the offense by lamenting, resolving to come before the Vaishnava, falling at his feet, and satisfying him by offering his obeisances, praises, and respects. So this is the proper way to neutralize aparada, Vaishnava aparada. If the Vaishnava is not satisfied, the person should render favorable service to him according to his desires for many days. This is the recommendation. If he's not still satisfied, he says, please let me serve you in some way. And then he says, sometimes the offense is so grievous that the Vaishnava's anger does not die. So what to do in this case? He says, in this case, in extreme remorse, thinking himself most unfortunate and bound for millions of years in hell for this offense, he should give up everything and take full shelter of continuous Nama Sankirtana. By divine power of Nama Kirtana, certainly in time that person will be delivered from his offense. So he says, if all this doesn't work, then you can take shelter of the holy name and beg forgiveness from the holy name, and then you will be relieved from it. But then he says, however, he should not justify himself by arguing that Shastra says, Nama Parada Yuktanam Namanyeva Harandyakam. The holy name alone is sufficient to deliver an offender. So what is the need of humbling myself by offering repeated respects and service to the Vaishnava that he has offended? This type of mentality makes him guilty of further offense. So if you say, why should I humiliate myself by coming? If anyway, I can just chant the holy name and then it will be nullified. No, it will only aggravate your offense instead of nullifying it. So there is a proper way, proper procedure of doing it. If we offended somebody, we should beg forgiveness, should become straightforward and honest enough to do this. And then very interesting and another, sometimes we may think, that of course, yes, I offended him, but he's not a devotee. He's just a pretender, he's just he's a neophyte, he's not a Mahabhagavata. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, nor should one be of the mentality to think that the offense of sadhu ninda discriminates between the types of Vaishnavas. Sadhu means sadhu. Sadhu reva himantavya, he should be considered sadhu, even if he is committing sins. So it does not refer only to one who is fully and perfectly qualified with all the qualities mentioned in scripture, such as mercifulness, never harming others, and forgiving to all living entities. Kripalo akritadroha stitikshu sarvadehinam. So it says that scriptures, the Padma Purana, please listen very carefully what Padma Purana has to say about this. O Brahmana, persons lacking proper behavior, who are fallen, deceitful, full of false ego, absorbed in bodily conception, drunkards, cruel, irreligious, low-born, hard-hearted, attached to money, children and wife, and fallen in all respects, can also be liberated if they take shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes this verse from Padma Purana, Sarvachara Vivarjitah, Shatkadhiya, Vratya, Jagatvanchaka, deceitful. Even person who has very bad character, a cheater, devoid of all proper behavior, and so on and so forth, if he surrenders to the Lord, he must be considered to sadhu. Sadhu reva samantavya. So it's not an excuse to say, I'm not an offender because I offend somebody who is offender himself. No, that's not an excuse. And the last thing which we will study is this other, few more think about this, two more. So, and then he says, he considers different scenarios. Normally you should feel remorse, repentance, go back forgiveness. If he doesn't forgive you immediately, you should render service. If he still doesn't forgive, you should chant the holy name incessantly. But sometimes the sadhu is not being offended. You offend him and he is not offended. Does it mean that there is no aparad? Sadhus, I cannot offend sadhu because if he is offended, he is not a sadhu. Is it a good logic? What kind of sadhu he is if he is offended? Sadhu is supposed to be, forgiving and everything else. He says, no, it's not a good logic. Sadhu may not be offended, but the dust on his lotus feet will be offended. And the dust from his lotus feet will come down to your head, and you will still suffer the consequences of this offense. Therefore, we should never misuse this sort of attitude. Yes, sadhu may be very forgiving, but it doesn't mean that we can offend him. It doesn't mean that we should not feel remorseful. We should feel genuinely remorseful if some offense takes place. So, and he quotes this verse from Sati's angry speech towards Daksha. And she came and she started criticizing Daksha, you offender of the great Mahabhagavata, Shiva. And she says, let's chant together. Nascharyam etatyata satsu sarvada mahatvininda punapathavadishu sreshyam mahapurusha padapam shudhir nirasta tejaksu tadeva shobhanam. So she very beautifully says, nirasta tejaksu tadeva shobhanam. The glory of that criticism which you committed is that the result which it gives. Tadeva shobhanam. It basically means that the glory of the criticism is that the result will always come to you. That's the glory. It inevitably will come to you. You will not be able to avoid this result. That's how serious it is. Nirasta tejaksu tadeva shobhanam. So she says, it's not naaschariyam etadyata satsu sarvada. It's not surprising that materialists, asatsu, people who are absorbed in asat, in material nature, mahatvininda kunapatmavadishu, those people who are claiming the gross body of the soul, kunapa, the bag of this body to be the Atma, Kunapatmavadishu. It's not surprising that they Mahatvininda constantly criticize great devotees. Sarvada Mahatvininda with envy and become deprived of their powers. But they become deprived of their powers Mahapurusha Padapam Shubhi, by the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees. It basically means that somehow or other the result will come to us. We will not be able to avoid the result. Therefore, we have to be very honest and not to commit offenses. And then the last thing, this is very last part of this section of Madhurya Kadambini is that, yes, sometimes devotees are not offended, But there are occasions described in Shastra when you offend a devotee, and devotee gives blessings to you. Because the devotees, especially great saints, great sadhus, they are unconventional. They're not following the normal conventions, the rules of ordinary people. You come to him and you are, full of fury, and you offend him, and he smiles at you and says, Ashirvad, Ayushman Bhava, or whatever. So they say yes. He says it's there. Definitely it's there. And the result of this blessings of a great devotee is that you become a devotee yourself, and you will forget about all your offensive mentality. It's actually, there are many real stories in spiritual history of the world, like there were thieves who were trying to steal some goods from Jagannath Das Babaji. They came in the middle of night, and they started taking everything, and when they were leaving, he said, "Oh, you forget this, please take this." And the next day they came, and they fell at his feet, and because he gave them blessings, they fell at his feet and started begging forgiveness, and they became his sevakas. So I also heard a similar story with one Russian Christian saint, Serafim Sarovsky, who was some rogues came to his secluded place. He was in the forest and wanted to kill him. And he started praying for them. He started really, he was kneeling down and praying for them. And then they were caught, and they were brought in front of the judge, and he himself came in front of the judge and says, "Please don't punish them. Don't punish them. They are protected by me." So, and they became very saintly people at the end. So that happens, and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives 3 examples of this, how it happens. He says, he gave the example of Jada Bharata, how with King Rahugana severely offended him. He said, you are just stupid fellow, you're pretending, why you are faltering in your way, why you are bumping me. And then Jada Bharata looked at him and said, "No, this guy needs some correction." So, and he started preaching to him, and King Rahugana was listening. Then he jumped down from his palanquin and touched the feet of Jada Bharata. And another story, very interesting, from Puranas, about Uparichara Vasu, which is mentioned here. Uparichara Vasu was the king of Mahabharata fame, and he was a friend of Indra. He was such a saintly person, and he was performing such severe austerities that Indra became very worried. He came to him and he said, "What do you want?" He said, "I don't want anything. Please don't worry. I'm not going to become Indra. I want to be a sadhu." And Indra became so pleased, and he said, I still want to give you my blessings. Do you want something? And he said, "Give me one flying saucer, some aeroplane." And that's why he became Uparicharu Vasu. He was flying up there in the sky, Uparicharu Vasu. And then he committed some offense. He was asked by the demigods and the demons, by demigods and brahmanas to be the referee, to be the judge in their argument, in their debate, and he made the wrong judgment. They asked him to give impartial judgment, and he ruled in favor of demigods because Indra was his friend. So, and therefore he was condemned, and he actually ended up in hell, in Patala Loka. So he ended up in hell, but in Patala Loka he was a devotee, and he was so composed and happy. So he started doing bhajan, and all the demons who live in Patala Loka became really worried. They started attacking him with all kinds of weapons. He couldn't care less. And all the weapons, he was so powerful saint that all the weapons didn't touch him. So the demons went to Shukracharya. Demons asked Shukracharya, one very strange fellow came to our planet. We never seen such a fellow. And he's so powerful, we're trying to harm him, and we couldn't harm him. And then Shukracharya says, oh, he is a Mahabhagavata. So to overpower him, you should preach atheism. You should actively and loudly preach atheism. And that will destroy his bhakti, and when his bhakti is destroyed, you will destroy him. So, and they became very enlivened, and they came in vicinity of this Uparicharu Vasu, and they started actively preaching atheism. God is not there, it's just all, stories from Puranas. It's all useless mythology, and Puranas are written in 7th century AD. Max Muller says this. So they started preaching this established atheistic conceptions about the scriptures. And Uparicharu Vasu became so compassionate. He started crying. He said, look at these people. They're already demons, and they're already living in hell, and they also have this stupid conceptions. So instead of cursing them, he gave them blessings, and they all became devotees and came to Shukracharya and said, thank you very much, it was a good, it worked. So that's the story. But in any case, please don't offend a great devotee hoping that he will give you blessings. It's not the way to obtain the blessings of a great devotee. Please be careful with any devotee. Please don't offend anyone. And then your progress in bhakti will not be impeded by this aparadha. So by saying this, we can come to the next stage of our program today. We're supposed to give initiation to 8 people who are patiently waiting for this moment. And because we are supposed to speak about initiation and give instruction how we should chant the holy name, so today's lecture was very appropriate because it was about how to chant the holy name without committing nama aparadhas, and what we should do if in case we commit some nama aparadhas. So it was very appropriate, and please remember this lecture, and then you will always be successful in your endeavors to please the Lord. The pleasure of the Lord will come to you.